Excerpts from the Zen Reader, a collection of the world's most classic Zen scriptures, edited by Thomas Cleary. Zen is traditionally called the school of the awakened mind, or the gate to the source. The premise of Zen is that our personality, culture, and beliefs are not inherent parts of our souls, but guests of a recondite host, the Buddha nature or real self hidden within us. We are not limited in our essence or mode of being to what we happen to believe we are, or what we happen to believe the world is based on the accidental conditions of our birth and upbringing. The classical masters of Zen talk about the practicalities of Zen realization in many different ways, speaking as they did to different audiences in different times, but all of them are talking about waking up, seeing for yourself, and standing on your own 2 feet. Start anywhere. Eventually you'll come full circle. Entry into the Way by the founder of Zen, Bodhidharma. There are many avenues of entry into the way, but they are essentially of just 2 types, referred to as principle and conduct. Entry by principle is when you realize the source by way of the teachings and deeply believe that all living beings have the same real, essential nature, but it is veiled by outside elements and false ideas and cannot manifest completely. If you abandon falsehood and return to reality, abiding stably in impassive observation, with no self and no other, regarding ordinary and holy as equal, persisting firmly, immovable, then you deeply harmonize with the principle. Having no false notions, being serene and not striving, is called entry by way of principle. Entry by conduct refers to 4 practices in which all other practices are included. What are the 4? First is compensation for opposition. Second is adapting to conditions. Third is not seeking anything. Fourth is acting in accordance with the truth. The practice of compensation for opposition means that when people cultivating the way are beset by suffering, they should think how in past times they themselves neglected the fundamental and pursued the trivial over countless ages, flowing in waves of existences, arousing much enmity and hatred, with no end of offense and injury. Thus they accept contentedly, without enmity or complaint. Scripture says, there is no anxiety when experiencing suffering because of perfect knowledge. Second is the practice of adapting to conditions. Living beings have no absolute self. They are all influenced by conditions and actions. These experiences of pain and pleasure both come from conditions. When the conditions wear out, they return to nothing. So what is there to rejoice about? Gain and loss come from conditions. There is no increase or decrease in the mind. When the influence of joy does not stir you, there is profound harmony with the way. Therefore, this is called the practice of adapting to conditions. Third is the practice of not seeking anything. Worldly people wander forever, becoming attached by greed here and there. This is called seeking. The wise realize that the principle of absolute truth is contrary to the mundane. All existence are empty. There is nothing to hope for. Blessings and curses always follow each other. Living in the world is like a house on fire. All corporeal existence involves pain. Who can be at peace? Because of understanding this point, we let go of all existences, stop thinking, and seek nothing. Scripture says, seeking is all painful. Not seeking anything is bliss. Fourth is the practice of acting in accord with truth. The principle of purity of essential nature is called truth. In terms of this principle, all appearances are empty, so there is no infection, no attachment, no this, no that. Liberated from empty personality and things, independent and unattached, with the sole purpose of getting rid of defilement, edifying people informally, this constitutes your own practice and can help others. Practicing these ways of transcendence in order to get rid of false ideas without objectivizing practices is called practice in accordance with truth. Bodhidharma. Form and Shadow by Layman Zhang. Shadows arise from forms. Echoes come from sounds. If we fiddle with shadows and ignore the forms, we do not recognize that the forms are the roots of the shadows. If we raise our voices to stop echoes, we are not cognizant of the fact that sounds are the roots of the echoes. To try to head for nirvana by getting rid of afflictions is like removing forms to look for shadows. To seek Buddhahood apart from living beings is like seeking echoes by silencing sounds. So we know that illusion and enlightenment are one road. Ignorance and knowledge are not separate. We make names for what has no name. Because we go by the names, judgments of right and wrong arise. We make rationalizations for what has no reason. Because we rely on the rationalizations, argument and discussion arise. Illusion is not real. Who is right? Who is wrong? The unreal is not actual. What is empty? What exists? Thus I realize that attainment means nothing, and loss loses nothing. The Non-duality of Buddhahood and Ordinary Life by Pao Chi. Ordinary life and Buddhahood have no distinction. Great knowledge is not different from ignorance. Why should one seek outwardly for a treasure when the field of the body has its own bright jewel? The right way and wrong way are not two. When perfectly known, ordinary and sage are on the same road. Illusion and enlightenment originally have no distinction. Nirvana and samsara are one suchness. In the final analysis, clinging to objects is empty and null. Only seek clear spaciousness of mind and thought. There is not a single thing that can be attained. Serenely, spontaneously, you enter the ultimate. Vanity by Pao Chi. How many ignorant people in the world try to seek the way by means of the way? Searching widely among a profusion of doctrines, they cannot even save themselves. Only pursuing the confused explanations of others' writings, they claim to have arrived at the subtlety of noumenon. Wasting a life in idle labors, they sink forever in birth and death. When polluted attachment binds the mind unrelentingly, the mind of pure knowledge afflicts itself. The forest of the cosmos of realities turns into a wasteland of brambles. As long as you cling to yellow leaves as gold, you won't know to give up the gold for jewels. The reason you lose your mind and run around crazily is that you forcibly try to keep up appearances. You may be reciting scriptures and treatises in your mouth, but in your heart you're always lifeless. If you realize the original mind is empty someday, the fullness of reality as is will not leave you lacking. Seek Nothing by Pao Chi. The inner view and the outer view are both wrong. The way of Buddhas and the way of demons are both mistaken. If you are subject to these two evils, then you will reject suffering and seek pleasure. When you awaken to the root, birth and death are essentially empty. Where can Buddhas or demons stay? The repetitious routines of mundane ways go on unceasing. If you form compulsive habits, you cannot get rid of them. The reason for flowing in the waves of birth and death all come from arbitrary production of schemes for control. The body is fundamentally empty and unreal. When you go back to the basis, who is calculating? Being and non-being can be done on your own. Don't bother figuring with a confused mind. The body of sentient beings is the same as cosmic space. Where can afflictions stay? Just seek nothing at all, and afflictions will naturally fall away. The Nature of Things by Pao Chi. The nature of things is fundamental, perpetual silence, open and clear, without limits or boundaries. If you place your mind in the midst of grasping and rejecting, you will be under the influence of these two states. If you concentrate, focusing on an objective, practicing the way like a mechanical mannequin, when will you ever arrive at the goal? All things are fundamentally empty. There's nothing to stick to. Objects are like floating clouds, certain to disperse. Remember, when you realize the basic emptiness of fundamental essence, don't speak of it to the ignorant, or they'll beat your body to pieces. Provisional Teachings by Pai Cheng. If a Buddha would not speak, then people would have no hope of liberation. But if a Buddha speaks, then people pursue the words and create interpretations, so there would be little advantage and much disadvantage. That is why the Buddha said, "I would rather not explain the truth, but enter into extinction right away." But then afterward, he thought back on all the Buddhas of the past, who had all taught the doctrines of three vehicles. After that, he made temporary use of verses to explain, and provisionally established names and terms. Originally, it is not Buddha, but he told people, this is Buddha. Originally, it is not enlightenment, but he told people, this is enlightenment, peace, liberation, and so on. He knew people couldn't bear a burden of 10,000 pounds, so for the time being, he taught them the incomplete teaching. And he realized the spread of good ways, which was still better than evil ways. But when the limits of good results are fulfilled, then bad consequences ensue. Once you have Buddha, then there are non-Buddha or sentient beings. Once you have nirvana, then there is birth and death. Once you have light, then there is darkness. As long as cause and effect with attachment continue to operate, there is nothing that does not have consequences. Elementary, Intermediate, and Final Good by Pai Cheng. Realizing that the present mirroring awareness is your own Buddha is the elementary good. Not to keep dwelling in the immediate mirroring awareness is the intermediate good. Not to make an understanding of non-dwelling either is the final good. Such a person is one of the Buddhas, neither an ordinary person nor a sage. Yet do not mistakenly state that a Buddha is neither an ordinary person nor a sage. The founder of Zen said, with no ability and no sagacity, this is enlightened sagehood. Cleaning the Mind by Pai Cheng. Zen study is like washing a dirty garment. The garment is originally there. The dirt comes from outside. Having heard it said that all sound and form, existent or not, are such filth, do not set your mind on any of it at all. Right now, cut off the flow of sound and form, existent or not, and your mind will be like space. You should study this way as attentively as you would save your own head from burning. If you have not accomplished that yet, if you try to compose yourself to start learning this when you get to the moment of death, you will have no hope of success. If you fear that you will go mad with terror at the moment of death and will fail to attain freedom, then you should first be free right now. Then you'll be all right. Right now, in respect to each and everything, don't have any obsession at all, and do not remain fixated on intellectual interpretation. Then you will be free. Why haven't you dropped it yet? Who is asking the question? Now and Forever by Pai Cheng. The cause is right now. The result is at the moment of death. When the resultant action is already manifest, how can you fear? Fear is over the past and present. Since the past had a present, the present must have a past. Since there has been enlightenment in the past, there must also be enlightenment in the present. If you can attain now and forever the single moment of present awareness, and this one moment of awareness is not governed by anything at all, whether existent or non-existent, then from the past and the present, the Buddha is just human, and the humans are just Buddhas. Don't use concentration to enter concentration. Don't use meditation to think of meditation. Don't use Buddha to search for Buddhahood. As it is said, reality does not seek reality. Reality does not obtain reality. Reality does not practice reality. Reality does not see reality. It finds its way naturally. It is not attained by attainment. That is why awakening people should thus be properly mindful, subsisting alone in the midst of things, composed, yet without knowledge of the fact of subsisting alone. The nature of wisdom is such as it is of itself. It is not disposed by causes. It is also called the knot of essence, or the cluster of essence. It is not known by knowledge, not discerned by consciousness. It is entirely beyond mental calculation. Still and silent, essence totally realized, thought and judgment are forever ended. Just as if the flow of the ocean had stopped, waves do not rise again. The Sphere of the Enlightened by Pai Cheng. It is like the water of the ocean. Even without wind, there are waves everywhere. Suddenly knowing of the waves all around is the gross within the subtle. Letting go of knowledge in the midst of knowing is like the subtle within the subtle. This is the sphere of the enlightened. From this point on, you really know. This is called the pinnacle of Zen, the sovereignty of Zen. It is also called knowledge of what is knowable. It is when inside and outside are in complete communion, without any obstruction at all. Stopping and seeing. When mind and Buddha are both observed, that is seeing. When mind and Buddha are both forgotten, that is stopping. Once concentration and insight are balanced, what mind is not Buddha? What Buddha not mind? Mind and Buddha being thus, then myriad situations, myriad conditions are all meditation. Tacit accord. Nanchuan was asked, if the Great Way is not in the realm of perception or cognition, how is it realized? Nanchuan said, it is necessary to realize how to reach it spontaneously by tacit accord with it. He continued, the basis of realization does not come from perception or cognition. Perception and cognition involve objects and only exist in relation to things. The spiritual subtlety is inconceivable. It is not relative. That is why it is said that the subtle function is mastered spontaneously, not depending on something else. So it is said that this is not a matter of light or dark, and it is apart from being and non-being. It is penetrated mystically by anyone plunging into the noumenon, unbeknownst to anyone. The substance of mind. The substance of your mind is apart from annihilation and apart from eternity. Its essence is neither polluted nor pure. Calm and complete, it is equal in ordinary people and sages, functioning responsively without convention. All realms of experience and all states of being are only manifestations of your own mind. Do the moon reflected in water or images in a mirror have origination and extinction? If you actually know this, you are fully equipped. The reason that sages have manifested a spiritual presence to provide exemplars and have set forth a wide variety of puzzling sayings is simply to illustrate the fundamental peace of the body of reality, bringing about a return to the root. Understanding by Hui Lin. Questions are endless, and answers are inexhaustible. If it's a matter of curing illness, it doesn't take a donkey load of medicine. What does that mean? When sages of yore passed on a word or half a phrase, it was something they did only because they had no other choice. If you talk a lot about different points of view, that is contrary to the essence of the way. Indeed, the subtlety is beyond all images. The principle unifies all methods. Even while presenting many approaches, the light is hidden in the absolute. So it seems that the way depends on the mind's awakening. It is not in words. Continuously evident, it has never been cut off. Therefore it is said that the whole universe is just an illusion, unless you immediately realize the vehicle of truth and attain the mystic path all at once, forgetting all about subject and object, arriving at basic unminding, seeing through worldly troubles, understanding gangs of devils. If you effectively understand thus, it will make you happy for life. If you still don't understand, it's just because you yourself are avoiding it. Application. Zheng Tian was asked, how should I apply my mind 24 hours a day? He replied, when chickens are cold, they roost in trees. When ducks are cold, they plunge into water. The questioner said, then I don't need cultivated realization, and I won't pursue Buddhahood or Zen mastery. Zheng Tian responded, you've saved half my effort. The Primordial Buddha by Huanglong Huinan. The sun rises in the east, the moon sets in the west. When one rises, one sets. From ancient times until now, people like you all know this and see this. The primordial cosmic Buddha is infinitely boundless, independent in all circumstances, in 1,000 different daily affairs. Why do you not see it? It is because you still have calculation in your mind, and your views are limited to effect and cause. You are not yet able to transcend religious sentiments and get beyond the shadows and traces. If you instantly understand that conditional occurrence is uncreated, you will shine with illumination like the sun and moon, envelope and support like the sky and earth. Subjective feelings. When subjective feelings arrange your effort, and activity is obsessed with objects, the matter of yourself is neglected. Not believing in true universal knowledge in oneself, you'll never attain true awakening. Absolute and relative, a sublime saying taken from the I Ching. When the absolute is absolute, it is incomplete. Within completeness, there is also the relative. When the relative is relative, it is not material. Even within matter, completeness remains. Deep in the night, there's the energy that brings on dawn. When the sun is at its peak, it lights up the skies. Who's got the pearl? Another taken from the I Ching. Remain silent, and you sink into a realm of shadows. Speak, and you fall into a deep pit. Try, and you're as far away as sky from earth. Give up, and you'll never attain. Enormous waves go on, foaming breakers flood the skies. Who's got the bright pearl that calms the oceans? Meaningless Talk by Su Sin. Bottomless in depth, boundlessly vast, foaming waves flood the sea. How can you determine the current of the water? If you can discern the current of the water, then you will know the source. If you don't yet know the source, for now, I am speaking meaningless talk to you. But how do you understand this meaningless talk? Is it that I tend to criticize people? Is this meaningless talk? Is it that speaking about worldly judgments and comparisons is meaningless talk? This is not the point. As I see you, you are a sorry bunch. You leap up idly, and 9 times out of 10 crudely, merely having remembered a useless saying or an outworn speech. When you are confronted with a challenge, though, you cannot clear it up. Nowadays, there's a kind of elder who likes to instruct people by means of sayings, like giving out verbal orders in a small village. That is called slandering universal insight. It is truly hard to repent. Why don't you search your own guts? When you are lying sick and helpless on your deathbed, none of the sayings you learned all your life will be of any use at all. Zen in the Teachings. Dharma Master Chao said, "Wisdom has the perception to find out the recondite without any knowledge. Spirit has the function of responsive understanding without any rumination." Even in speaking thus, the ancients certainly expended a lot of effort. How can that compare to sitting near the fireplace when it's cold and sitting by bamboo groves and valley streams when it's hot? Even so, I ask you, what about the ultimate matter? Eye and Cataract by Boot Wan. Do you want to understand? The whole world is one of your eyes. The body produced by your parents is a cataract. All ordinary people ignore the indestructible, marvelously clear, unfailingly mirroring eye and cling fast to the dust cataract produced by the relationship of their father and mother. Therefore, they take illusions for realities and grasp at reflections as the physical forms themselves. Great Wisdom by Ying An. Those of superior qualities and great wisdom get the point right off the bat. Guidance doesn't mean gum beating and lip flapping. Truly awakened people with clear eyes would just laugh. The great masters of India and China only met mind to mind. From the very first, there was never any mind to attain. But if you make a rationale of mindlessness, that is the same as having a certain mentality. Spiritual Knowledge by Boot Wan, one of the most important scriptures in this book. The great enlightenment that broke down the ultimate particle manifested both substance and functions completely, expounding 5,048 scrolls of teachings, each word embodying truth, pointing out 84,000 subtle ways to truth, all ending up in the ocean of essential nature. Its application is not in vain. Fact and principle are universally included, freely concentrating and expanding. Primordially, there is just a single energy, temporally expressed by means of provisional terms. It contains all things and pervades all times. Beyond all natures and characterizations, it is a solitary light, the source of completeness and spiritual knowledge. From the aeon of the void right up to now, it has never perished and never been born, never increased and never decreased. Originally, there are no 4 kinds of birth and 6 courses of being. All of them arise from false ideas. Ancient sages, out of compassion and mercy, bequeathed scriptures and established classics, wanting to get people to return to themselves. Provisionally designating the names Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism, they set up images to represent the heart, employed words to lead to the essential. Thus, Confucians take Confucius and Mencius to be their models. Taoists study Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi, and Buddhists search out true emptiness. The 3 are basically one body. That body is neither void nor material, neither existent nor non-existent. It contains heaven and earth, including everything. It benefits sentient beings, its constant radiance shining independently. This subtle basis is rarely expounded. The sages are long gone, and falsehood is deep. Bedevilment is strong, while true teaching is weak. After Bodhidharma came from the West, not insisting on writings, but just pointing to the human mind for perception of its nature and attainment of enlightenment, fortunately we had one flower blossom in 5 petals. When the fruit had formed, the 6th Grand Master disseminated it throughout the land. The mutual objective recognition of minds was called transmission of the lamp. Perfectly clear spiritual knowledge taught in accord with potentials. There were some, however, who sank into voidness and lingered in stillness. There were some who went frantically seeking, clinging to forms. They took up walking sticks and traveled over 1,000 mountains and 10,000 rivers, not knowing for themselves that the body is the site of enlightenment. Their every thought was on objects, turning away from awakening. Retreating and forgetting halfway along the path, they sank forever into the realm of devils. Transmission of Zen by Pu Wan. Have you not read how Bodhidharma faced a wall for 9 years when he first went to Shaolin, absolutely inscrutable? The future 2nd Grand Master stood in the snow and cut off his arm, yet Bodhidharma still would not trust him. The 2nd Grand Master said, "Please pacify my mind." Bodhidharma said, "Bring me your mind, and I will pacify it for you." The 2nd Grand Master replied, "Having looked for my mind, I cannot find it." Bodhidharma said, "I have pacified your mind for you." The mind of the 2nd Grand Master opened up, and he attained great enlightenment. When your original mind is all-pervasive, only then will you understand the meaning of Bodhidharma's coming from the West. It was transmitted successively, reaching the 6th Grand Master. Teaching nowadays can hardly be compared with the wise ones of old. There is the name without the reality. Who among latter-day students knows they are turning away from awakening and getting mixed up in objects? Zen Seeking by Ying An. A Grandmaster said, "With uniform equanimity, everything disappears of itself. Only then do you attain great effectiveness. When you come to the boundary of life and death, you calmly become absolutely still, without any further effort whatsoever. Just being so, like a polar mountain. Does that not hit the mark?" Zen students in recent times may call themselves seekers, but wherever they take up residence, they just keep false ideas in their minds, making contentious disputation a way of life. Genuine seekers are not like this. Observe how the ancient sages since time immemorial went from community to company, got to know genuine spiritual friends, and spent 10 or 20 years retreating into themselves, like dead ashes and withered trees, carefully finding out what's at the root and the stem. They had to find reality before they could adapt to conditions, while remaining natural and spontaneous, worthy of the name of a Zen student or a high-minded pilgrim. If your state of mind is not clear, how can you stop arousing your mind and stirring thoughts 24 hours a day, like countless waves lapping all around? How can you dissolve them all away? At this point, if you have no penetrating liberation, you are just an ignorant thief stealing the community's food. When your time is up, all the mechanical knowledge and intellectualism you have acquired in your life will be of no use at all in facing death. Even if you do countless good works all your life, you will have less and less hope of transcending birth and death. You will only get human or heavenly blessings and rewards. When the rewards are finished, as before, you have no way out. Lions and Geese by Ying An. In olden times, Ta Sui called on over 70 teachers. Those who had great vision were only one or two. The rest had at least accurate knowledge and perception. Sang Lin, associated with Yun Men for 18 years, worked as an attendant. Every word, even half a phrase, he would record on his paper robe. By these two extremes, we can see how sincere the ancients were about truth. When they reached penetration, they were empowered, transcending beyond all traps, devices, strategies, and emotional and intellectual interpretation. This is what is meant by the saying that the Lion King does not roar at random. In recent times, the Zen schools are weak and dilute. What is their problem? The problem lies in individual lack of self-trust. And where does this problem come from? It generally comes from the basis not being correct. As long as the basis is not correct, even if you put yourself in a Zen community, you will see the Zen community as an inn. Even if you talk about studying Zen and learning Zen, you will be like geese hearing thunder.